This is the Conservative Czar, December 1st, 2012. This charade that's going on with the fiscal cliff is a little bit like the card game, three-card Monte, or Follow the P. It's a sleight of hand magicians working. And the magicians are Boehner, Cantor, Ryan, Obama. You know, we can go, the list can go forever. But they're magicians. They're always trying to take your eye off the ball. And this fiscal cliff whole thing is so complicated. And of course, that's part of the game. Make it so complicated that the ordinary person cannot understand it, and they can't understand it. I don't believe there's less than 1% of the people who really understand the issues. I want to talk about one part of this whole thing, and that's the term used to describe it as sequestration. Now, watch the sleight of hands here. And the sleight of hands is, I really believe, is Boehner, with a wink and a nod to Obama. And here's what that sequestration is about. And if we had any kind of a fair media, this would be almost the #1 piece of news on the fiscal cliff, because it is a charade. Now, here's the story. Remember 2 years ago, we had this fight over raising the debt ceiling. And Bob Woodward wrote a book about it. And it was this long, complicated, fight and battle between these two hard-nosed, Boehner and Obama. And Boehner finally put something forward that the president agreed to, $2.2 trillion worth of cuts. $1 trillion now, and $1.2 trillion later. And I want to talk about the $1.2 trillion. Now remember, this is sold to conservatives as a $2.2 trillion cut in spending. For that cut, will raise the debt ceiling limit. $1.2 trillion. In the beginning of the charade, the beginning of the three-card Monte, was that let's do this deal. We will form a commission, half Democrats, half Republicans, from the Senate and the House, and they will come up with how the $1.2 trillion in cuts will occur. And if they can't come up with it, then we will force the issue. This, we were told, is as tough a piece of legislation as there could possibly be. It's called sequestration, and it will mean that we will put our feet to the fire, and we will, for the first time, we will do what we say. Sequestration. So the committee meets. They can't, and the back end of the sequestration was, if the committee cannot solve the problem, okay. If the committee cannot solve the problem, then there are forced cuts. So half from national security and half from every other expenditure in the federal government. Across the board cuts. Now, it's draconian. It'll force us to act, force us into these cuts. The committee met and did nothing. Okay, no compromise, nothing. So we get to the point where on January 1st, sequestration occurs with these forced cuts. Now the media is playing this all, the draconian cuts. We cannot cut it from defense. The conservatives, so-called conservatives, are saying we cannot possibly cut. This amounts to $60 billion cut from a defense budget when we're winding down a war in Afghanistan. It is a piece of cake. And even if it wasn't a piece of cake, you mean to tell me we can't cut 10, this is what it amounts to, 10% from the defense budget? I'm telling you this, if anybody thinks we can't cut 10% from the defense budget, they're not a conservative. They believe in big government. They need to be gotten rid of. 10% of the defense budget. But that's a draconian sequestration. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, because this is complicated. So we have these forced cuts, so-called, that are going to occur on January 1st. The dirty secret here, in the charade, the moving ball, is that everybody the president, Boehner, Cantor, Ryan don't want the cuts to occur, and they're going to be compromised away in every single scenario of compromise that you can think of. And they're going to hope you don't pay attention. So these are cuts that were promised us 2 years ago, that we were lied to 2 years ago about, that are going to just disappear. Remember, go back. These are $1.2 trillion of cuts that sold the Republicans on raising the debt ceiling limit. But with a wink and a nod, Boehner to Obama, and everybody who knew, except you, that when the committee didn't meet and sequestration was going to hit on January 1st, everybody knew we were just going to pass a law and get rid of the sequestration. We're going to put it in a grand bargain where they might. I honestly think they might do this. Well, we're going to not have sequestration, but we're going to have $1.2 trillion worth of cuts down the road. We're going to replace it. They could do that. It's so phony. It is ridiculous. But this sequestration thing is important. It was a cornerstone of the negotiations to raise the debt ceiling 2 years ago. The charade is existing. It's going to be at every single scenario of compromise that's wiped out. It's not replaced by spending cuts. There's going to be a compromise. I know there is, and the sequestration will be gone. Going to be gone. And that meant that debt ceiling was raised for nothing 2 years ago. And whatever we do this time in our compromise will be for nothing. But we will compromise. And John Boehner will go on the Katie Couric show. And the world will be whole. This is the Conservative Czar. See you next time.